Stephen.
Andrew.
You fancy spending a quiet night inside number 9?
Absolutely do.
Here we are at the end of season 7 with Wise Owl, which is episode 6 of series 7, directed by Louise Hooper, produced by Kim Crowther, written by Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith, and it first aired on Wednesday the 1st of June 2022. Oh wow.
Oh wow. I love this. And I think it's an amazing piece of storytelling.
Yes.
That, for reasons we'll get into later, is, I think, more uplifting on a second watch than I first thought when I watched it first time round.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's bleak content with an uplifting resolution.
Payoff.
Yes, absolutely. Happy
ending. Not many happy endings.
No,
but I think this has one.
And it's like a really genuinely uplifting ending in the way that it presents as he's getting bigger. Like there's just something so powerful about that moment, which we'll get into.
Spoilers. Spoilers for the podcast. Lie ahead.
Don't want to spoil the podcast.
It's my sister's birthday today. I'm 6. She got a new kite. I promised Mummy I would watch her while we played with it outside. It's my turn now. No, it's my present and I want to fly it.
Yeah, so we all remember the public information films that were created to keep us safe as children.
I don't remember the public information films that were created to keep me safe as a child.
That's why you're so reckless.
Where did they with public information films before? There was a line in an episode that alluded to one, because we then went down a rabbit hole of watching a few of them. Christine, line in 12 Days of Christine that the boyfriend said,
was it?
Made reference to, it was a really bleak one as well.
It was The Spirit of Dark and Lonely Water was the one we
that was the one, yeah.
Going,
yeah, that was it. He spoke about that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were horrendous. Powerful, horrendous.
There's some horrific ones and some really, because I've gone down a rabbit hole again this week of watching a few of them. Because I remember there was not many, but I remember Tufty Tales. That was like a road awareness.
I remember the Hedgehogs.
Oh, that was, a little bit later. And then Stranger Danger stuff. But yeah, I watched a Tufty Tales. I remember one about fireworks with Tufty Tales as well, where someone had their hand burnt off or something because of a sparkler. And yeah, the one I watched, it was like an ice cream van had come, and Tufty, a squirrel, took his mum out or something to got his mum to take him out to get an ice cream. And then there was another animal that didn't wait for their mum to go out to get an ice cream, and they ended up getting flattened by a car coming past. And then the moral of the story was he got run over because he didn't wait for his mum. And it was no, he got run over because he stepped out in front of a car. And and then it goes down this whole thing of always take your mummy out, and everything is obsessed with the mummy bit. And it's just imagining, if I don't have a mummy, I'm gonna get run over, I'm gonna get electrocuted, I'm gonna get my hands burnt off.
There's a bit of that in this episode, isn't there? A missing.
Yeah. I think it was quite a significant part of those films. I think it was all about, all focused on, you need to be with your mummy. And I mean, in this is the mummy and the daddy, but obviously the daddy's not safe.
And mummy's not there.
And mummy's not there.
This starts out as just a public safety film about electricity and being careful of electricity. And at the moment, we have no reason to think anything other than information film.
Yeah. And it's very, very normal, a very normal public service information film.
Standard fare. I would say.
I remember seeing things about pylons as a child and think I was petrified of pylons.
There's never really been the payoff from the fear of pylons as I thought that there would be. That and quicksand. They're not as big a part of my life as I thought they'd be when I was younger.
No, quicksand, that's a scary thing. Have you seen Richard Madeley in Quicksand?
I haven't.
That's worth looking up afterwards.
You look at the beach and you think, pretty, lovely golden sand, that's safe. Not in certain parts of the country. Quicksand, and a horrible way to die.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, let's go through the episode. So we start with that public service information film about electricity. We meet Wise Owl.
And his wonderful twit you. It's
been going around my head all week.
Yeah.
Twit you.
Only a fool would climb up there. And then somehow he has the power to blow the kite free of the pylon.
Yes. Which isn't that helpful, really, when you're in that situation, because it's like...
What do I do if there isn't a gust of wind?
Or an owl to create...
Or an owl. So I guess we can... It's worth saying straight away that these public information films, eventually we start to realise these are actually like embedded memories. That our main guy Ronnie is only really seemingly able to access these memories through like flashbacks involving Wise Owl. So I'm assuming that this is one of those, and this is a memory.
Yeah, because there's sort of a blurred line between, is it memory or is it almost like this voice of authority that like is in his head. So it's not an actual film that maybe he saw when he was a kid.
Yeah.
But
well, I guess
his
we see
that situation.
When we see that later, when Wise Owl sort of branches out into taxidermy tuition.
Yes.
Not really a crucial thing for kids to be aware of.
That's such a good video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
So yeah, we've got the warning about electricity, and then we come out into real life, into the most 70s bathroom I think I've ever seen.
Yes. So 70s. The carpeted bathroom, carpet round the olive green bath. Carpets in a bathroom are one of the worst choices anyone could ever make. The one room is designed to be wet. It should not have a floor that isn't great when it's wet. And it's a nice deep pile carpet as well, I think.
Always is with those sort of bathrooms.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you've got... I was really, on first watch, really struck by the wallpaper as well. And obviously, because we'd seen the owl, it was like owl eyes. This wallpaper had a real eye-ness to it. Almost
like sort of weird kaleidoscopy kind of vision.
Yeah. Yeah, which kind of on reflection later, it's this, he's kind of created this, and I know the taxidermy is something he's got into later on, but he was obviously into it when they were kids because they learned how to do it. But well, I don't know actually. Yes, that's a good point. But the sense of this all-seeing thing happening around the place. You've got the eyes of these animals just constantly looking at you. You've got the eyes of the wallpaper looking at you, and
which is a strange decorating choice for a man who presumably wouldn't have wanted people to have seen what he was doing.
No, but he probably wanted the kids to feel like they were, because it's almost that, because and these public service information films themselves are like a very nanny state.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
like tool.
The all-seeing eye is watching. Yeah.
And you've got to be a good boy. You've got to be a good girl. You've got to do the right thing. You've got to always and you're always second guessing what that thing is. And you see that later on when he's, when he has a go at him, like, why do you never think for yourself or whatever? Like,
because that's how he's been brought up.
It's like this is how we've conditioned kids through these decades to actually be petrified of everything and to always be looking to adults, but not any adult, the right kind of adult,
yes,
to tell them what they're supposed to do. And obviously that comes unraveling in the fact that the only adult who is supposed to be safe is actually abusing him.
Yes.
So it's like, poor guy.
His character is, I could be wrong, but I don't really think we've seen a child abuse storyline like this since right back at the beginning in Sardines. And you had the same sort of almost infantile character back there who hadn't ever really grown up properly because of what he'd suffered. And I know thinking all the way back there, we had that same conversation about not really understanding those things and knowing enough about those things to talk about the effect that has on someone. But you kind of get that picture that this is what has led to this, of just this just being pushed down and treated like dirt on someone's shoe.
Yes,
even though cats don't wear shoes, except Puss in Boots.
Of course. Yeah, I think that's when we're seeing these cartoons as well. It's kind of that's indicating where he has got stuck in time, and obviously the dad is stuck in the 70s. You can see that in this bathroom. But yeah, it's really interesting. Like I one of my first thoughts after watching this was like, if this could be the perfect bookend with Sardines, if this was the entire run of Inside Number 9. And obviously it's been announced since then.
We've got 8 and 9.
We've got 8 and 9, so it's not going to be. But yeah, and there was also if you noticed, the music on the radio when he's in the bath, and it's Rachmaninoff's Concerto.
Oh, is it?
So it's the same as in Quiet Night In.
Oh, wow.
Which is really interesting.
Well, you start to wonder whether they knew they were getting 8 and 9.
Exactly. It's kind of like, there's an echo of that. And then, because that's a weird little moment, because the Twit You kind of interrupts that.
Yes.
And obviously, like the electricity situation, you kind of link to, okay, that's been set up because he's getting into a bath with a electric radio plugged in.
Right. How many plugged in electric radios like that have you ever come across? I guess it's quite a 70s
Since
thing.
The 70s.
Yeah.
Never.
Those are battery powered. They never have a cable.
Yes.
A big D batteries in them.
Yeah, the massive ones. Yeah.
Twit you.
And so it feels a little bit at this point. So you get the Twit You interrupts and then the doorbell goes, and then we'll come back to that conversation that happens post doorbell.
Yeah.
And then he heads back upstairs, and there's that feather in the bath. There almost seems to be a bit of a feeling that we're being led down this tale of this wise owl watching over him and keeping him safe still.
Yeah.
I felt like he was there to sort of pull him out of that moment, and he'd left his little calling card there on his way out. Yeah, that's where I was at that point.
Yeah, like I saved you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost kind of a
You're
supernatural element to it. Yeah, sort of stirring around. Yeah, it really, and I'd wondered with that Twit You interrupting the classical music was like, is that so he's sort of listening to something which is fairly adult, and then it's interrupted by this child thing again. He's like straight back to this moment when he was 10 or whatever. And is that sort of a sign of like his life is constantly this a little foray into adulthood, but then he's just the pull of child stuff is so strong that it just brings him back. There was Stefan on Twitter had sent a message about this Rachmaninoff thing, that he'd noticed that the music as well. And it's like that must be there for a reason in terms of like using the same music as A Quiet Night In. But yeah, it's like
for another reason.
Interpretation as to why that is. Yeah.
The music the music was a little bit strange in a few bits. Like there was these little feelings of when he was hearing like the fluttering noises and things. There were like these little stabs that almost sounded like it was like enchanted supernatural stuff going on. It felt a bit like that. It didn't feel like horror stuff. It didn't feel like something dark and like a dark evil presence over the house at all. It still felt a little bit like, why is Alice here?
I wonder if that's kind of how we were set up to think of, because it's almost like this fairy tale situation. I mean, I thought, are we in the 70s here? Like I wasn't at any point thinking.
Well, he's very much stuck in his dress, isn't he?
Yeah, because he looks 70s. And even Derek, when he arrives, like Steve's character looks pretty 70s. So
I love these little bit parts that they give themselves sometimes that don't really have a direct relevance to what's going on, but that you can build a little story around Ferrari the rabbit and finding all about how Ferrari died. We've only got half an hour. There is a fair number of minutes of that half hour dedicated to the story of the dead rabbit that doesn't really have any significance whatsoever.
But, that I suppose that's a device used to sort of send us the twist of that he doesn't live there, and kind of I suppose it gives us the taxidermy, the setup for that. But
and also his sort of his social fears, and what I'm a little unsure of is how much of his being scared of interaction is down to sort of how he's ended up being as a result of his abuse, and how much of it is sort of his institutionalized behavior because he's been put away for quite a long time. And we don't really know where he was put away.
No,
that's not entirely clear.
It's not tied up, is it, that at all? Yeah, and I suppose it's the big other, the voice of the cartoons, the Wise Owl as well, which, you see that the reason he's tentative and not answering the door is because he's not allowed to talk to strangers.
Stranger danger, yeah.
And so it's the susceptibility to the power, like, because it's those messages, especially when you're instilling them into kids at such a young age. Some of them where as the creators of those messages, okay, there is areas of grey, there is nuance in this, but when a child hears it, there is no grey.
No,
it's black and white. So, get that message into the head of a child at a certain age, and that becomes their entire
sacrosanct
system of belief. Yeah.
I mean, he even says, "I'm not supposed to talk to strangers."
Yeah.
And didn't even have the legs if that's cheaper.
Yes. You're just going to put it in the hutch, cover it with straw, and then pretend that's always tired. Yeah.
We're not ready for a conversation about death yet. Haven't even had the one about his mother.
Are you there? I'm not supposed to talk to strangers. Oh. Well, we've had it in the fridge overnight. My daughter doesn't know yet, she's only 5. And I was wondering if you could preserve him for us. Ferrari. She won't know the difference. I'll just tell her it's always tired.
As to another public information film or a flashback, it's a bit woolly as to what they are, about stranger danger.
And this was a really weird one. Like, very normal, but then weird at the end, where the owl, and the way that Wise Owl fights off the stranger, and then the way that it and then he claws, sort of catches Ronnie as he's flying away with like a talon or something, and you're like, that's a bit odd, because
not something you usually see.
Ronnie reacts, I think, a little bit as well, so it's kind of like, okay, is that you're showing that he's looking after him, but he's also hurting him, like a tiny little fragment of that at that point.
Well, he doesn't want anyone else interfering with Ronnie.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you have that moment there where...
Do you want to see a starfish?
Yeah, he said, I look nice and shiny. The words used there, it's just very, very creepy.
Always stay safe with your mummy and daddy.
And that's when he then goes into the shouting, like he's quite distressed.
Yeah, mummy never appears. And that's...
Because Wise Owl flies off and leaves him all on his own with no mummy to...
I feel like this is also quite Christine in these kind of mixed up memories and things going on inside her head that are kind of representative of things that have happened but aren't necessarily literally things that have happened. Aside from the fact that Dad wasn't actually a cartoon owl, it's more about what the little story tells you about what was going on rather than the story itself.
Mm-hmm. What did your mummy tell you about strangers?
That I shouldn't talk to them.
Exactly. Don't be a twit you. Always stay safe with your mummy and daddy. Wise Owl knows best.
Mummy! Mummy! Mummy!
And then we see the scene of him removing knives from the block and the drawer, putting them in a box, but then just sort of checks himself with the bread knife. He's like, oh no, I'll leave that one out.
It's a really shit one to keep out, isn't it, really? For what he's aiming to use. But it's not very stabby. It's a sawing motion.
It's a long and drawn out death knife. Yeah, it turns off the electricity, removes the bulbs.
So what was that suddenly him kicking into some sort of really overcautious mode about what he might end up doing?
Yeah, I've not been able to quite figure that one out.
Is this his flashbacks are making him remember bad things that had happened that he had sort of believed was his fault or had been led to believe were his fault, and so he needed to clear all of those things away so that he couldn't do them again?
Maybe. Yeah. Or is this just his common, almost like obsessive compulsion to always just remove the dangers that he's learnt about as a child from his environment?
Don't play with knives. Don't play with electricity.
Yeah. I mean, the irony being he could easily cause himself some harm in the way that he's removing all these things.
He could definitely do himself a mischief.
It's like taking all the bulbs out and just pulling the sockets out for things. I mean, that's going to be annoying. All the frozen stuff's going to thaw out.
Dangerous. And then you end up... Wise Owl says, never eat spoiled meat. And then he stumbles across some letters in the drawer to Wise Owl, which is a strange... because they look very childish and they look like they've been sat there a while. I mean, everything looks like it's been sat there a while, but I guess these were probably sent... Well, we find out he sent them, don't we?
Yeah, I think that's what's alluded to when he said, did you get my letters later on? That drawer is actually full of his letters, which, on first watch at that moment, I don't think there's so many things. And what I was really fascinated by was the fact that as I watched it again, there were so many things that were real red flags that I just didn't notice first time I watched it, or real dots that I didn't connect. This was one only in so much as I couldn't work out where does Wise Owl fit within this environment, within this situation. But obviously this is the house of Wise Owl. So then are you thinking, is Ronnie Wise Owl in some way? And there were moments where I thought, is Wise Owl just a voice in Ronnie's head that he uses to, and later on that this sort of gathers a bit of momentum, like uses to justify certain actions, almost like the devil and the angel on your shoulder type thing. But yeah, this moment, very ambiguous still. So then it goes to the teeth brushing
with the balloon floating up behind him.
Yeah.
And we get a sort of a voiceover back into another public service film with the balloon.
Yeah.
Where it's Joanne's 6th birthday.
She's got a doll, a tea set, and a kite. Now we're waiting for Mummy to get home so we can light the candles on her cake.
So it's weird because she gets the kite on her birthday. And the birthday was the day that the house got burned down. So has she managed to lose one kite in some pylons? And then they've bought her another one.
Well, she got the kite down with the wind.
She did, but did she get a new kite?
Oh, I don't know.
She's got another kite. People just keep gifting this child kites.
She loves kites.
They want her to end up in the pylons eventually. Yeah. I've never had that many kites as gifts.
The kite, again, is a tool used in those videos as like it's going to be dangerous. If are you that reckless that you use a kite?
You fly kites around electricity.
You're insane.
You're a madman.
Yeah, and then we see the first like allusion to the fact that maybe Ronnie himself has done some bad stuff.
So this is where this memory is kind of like clearly a big focal point for him because of what ended up happening. But he also seems to remember it in various different ways.
Yeah.
There's like repressed memories in here, and there's the stuff that he's been conditioned to believe happened versus what actually was going on.
Yeah.
And then the reality you see in real life outside of the film, as like a live action scene where he's going upstairs with his dad again while Joanne plays on her own with some matches in the front room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's almost like we're at the moment seeing the official version that is what his dad told everybody. Like the look on Ronnie's face when he's lighting the match. It's almost like a loving the danger.
You loved it. You loved you little pyromaniac.
Yeah. So he reveals the scar by his ear, which
kind of corroborating the story a bit.
Yes, exactly.
And I guess this is the first time that we see like a real link between real life events and what has gone on. And more, this feels like these aren't public service films anymore.
Yeah.
And I think this, for me, was where it turned into, right, these definitely aren't. They're kind of hinting that way, but now...
something more going on here.
Yeah. With his horribly burned ear.
And we sort of understand now why he has... or another reason why he has the haircut he has.
There can't be any other reason.
A beautiful thing. So he leaves the bathroom, top of the stairs. There's like owl fluttering sounds.
Yeah.
And then the little horror moment as he tries that door and it's slammed shut with a horrible noise.
It's like a screeching. Yeah, it's quite a really horrible noise, actually. It's almost a mixture of birds, squeals, human screaming. It's everything. It's
all of the trauma is just in that room. Like, yeah. And I mean, I was again trying to remember on first watch what I was thinking at that point, and
no
it's
idea
very difficult. Very difficult to just like what is going on here. And so then he sets up his bedding downstairs, and this is really the moment where we kind of enter a sense of reality. You know, even with Derek, you're in a weird world there. Like he's come to the door with a dead rabbit.
Stuff this for me.
Stuff that. And in that moment, I was thinking, you know, we're looking at Norman Bates here because he was into taxidermy and very socially awkward. Like what's going on?
What were you thinking when he set up his bed in the living room floor? I think it was just like a weird thing that he did. This is where I sleep. I sleep in the living room on the floor.
Yeah, I don't think at any point I thought he doesn't live here, weirdly.
No, I didn't. Even when he looked uncomfortable with all the taxidermy.
Yeah.
It still felt like it was his house.
Looking around for like the cables to plug the radio in. Like when you look back, it's like...
You've got an old...
I suppose.
We've all got a drawer that looks like that.
Yeah. But it seemed like, I don't know, when you look back at it, it's like, no, he doesn't know where things are.
No. He also doesn't want to sleep in his old childhood bed, does he?
No. When you watch it, knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay, that's obvious. Yeah. He wants to sleep as far away from that as possible. And then that phone call is very sweet.
I had to stuff a Ferrari. Someone's pet.
Hi, Mum.
Ronnie?
I'm getting ready for bed.
It's only 8:15. I'm calling you between curries. Are you all right?
Yeah?
I came round earlier. You weren't in.
I've been busy. I had to stuff a Ferrari.
He's in bed at 8:30, like a child's bedtime.
Yes.
Which, you know, I think at the time he thought, when I first watched it, I thought, I don't know, maybe he's just got nothing to do, so he's gone to bed. But actually, it's like maybe that's his bedtime because he's again stuck in those thoughts of a child. It's like, no, I go to bed at 8:30.
I did wonder when his mum said she came round earlier and he wasn't there. Because
where is that?
Where is that? Because he has been there for the whole day. We've seen him seemingly think about killing himself in the bath with an electric radio. We've seen the stuff play out with Derek. He's spent a lot of time de-dangering the house.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where she went.
We've learnt that he's not where he's supposed to be. He's not where she went to find him. So who knows where that is, where his home is. Yeah, and then we hear about Monday. So are you still coming on Monday?
Yeah.
You haven't been for over 3 years.
Yeah. So Monday is Joanne's birthday, is it?
Yeah.
So they celebrate Joanne's birthday and Death Day, I guess, because it was her birthday party.
Anniversary of the fire.
I assume he's seen his mum. He sees his mum in between those. And it's not that he hasn't visited her in over 3 years.
Yeah, I would guess so.
But it seems that there's some kind of treatment plan in place for him. And that it's really important for the doctor that he goes and confronts this.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're still working on the basis that he had a part in this and this is still causing him trauma because he had.
Because he set the fire and, yeah.
I guess that gives us an insight into the fact that maybe the place he's been locked up is, I mean, thinking back to how people may have been treated back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Put him away. He's not quite right in the head. Put him away. He can be dealt with by doctors because he's suffering this trauma from what went on with his sister.
Dr. Donetto, who doesn't know him. He doesn't know anything. And Ronnie can look after himself. But
it's true. I mean, Dr. Donetto probably doesn't know anything about why Ronnie is so troubled.
Yeah. And then he asks whether Dad will be there. And Mum says, we all deal with things in our own way, don't we? And then promise me you'll come and you won't do anything silly before then. So that sort of kind of puts into context the bath incident, perhaps. Mm-hmm. Maybe he has tried killing himself or harming himself in some way.
He possibly does need someone keeping more of an eye on him, a la Wise Owl, than he currently does have. Yeah. He's kind of just been released into the community to just go and be on his own without too much of a push on the doctor being involved, whilst potentially being a bit of a danger to himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many open questions around, like, where is he supposed to be right now? Where's he, like, come from? Where's his home and everything? Yeah, like, I think this sows the seeds of, okay, there's a really sweet, innocent guy here. Like, he doesn't seem in any way threatening. As you're kind of thinking in the context of Inside Number 9, it's like, I'm not getting vibes of like anything particularly sinister.
No, I think it's worth saying that I felt like this this episode didn't have a twist. It was like a slow burn reveal kind of episode of a horrible story of someone's life, like in a sort of a Christine way, I guess. Just this reveal as you go through of more and more details about someone's life until you reach that final point where we're in the present day and they managed to finally let go of all those things.
It was her birthday. Why did you do it, Ronnie? Why? You knew it was wrong.
You mustn't say anything.
So Act 3, I divided my notes up in acts again.
Between the PSAs?
Yeah, kind of, although it doesn't work perfectly, but this one was when we cut to the hospital. And he's sat on the hospital bed with a bandage around his head, blood coming out of his ear.
These are like a really stark shift into, right, okay, these are no longer anything to do with public safety.
With telling a story rather than delivering a message. And we hear the mum saying, it was her birthday, you knew it was wrong, why did you do it? And now we're into that definite, okay, Ronnie is living these or reliving these videos
in animation,
and then like we'd see, okay, Wise Owl is potentially the bad guy here, as he says, don't. And this is, I think this was the moment that for me it was like, okay, is Ronnie a Wise Owl? Is it his, like, to put it in Dexter terms, his dark passenger? Is it like this part of him that is a bit sinister?
You mustn't say anything.
Yeah.
You say, I think you posted, Wise Owls are not what they seem.
The owls are not
straight
what they
seem.
Yeah.
Straight after the episode.
So I get a little Twin Peaks reference in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crossover.
It was nice, yeah. And I think, like, owls in themselves have this aura about them of, like, it is that the wisdom and it's the sinister. It's this sense of, like, owls having this authority about. They have, like, a grandeur about them, but there's also
it's a grandeur that is almost put on them through the way that they're portrayed in things, because they. I don't know. I guess they have that face that looks sort of quite stern and but also quite fluffy. But they can turn their heads all the way around.
Yeah, they're very confusing. Like, I don't know. Have you ever kind of encountered an owl in real life?
No, I don't think I have.
Because I mean, I've only seen them sort of in zoos and things like that. But I always feel like I need to impress them, or.
Like, they're judging you.
Yeah, I feel like they're much cleverer than me, and I have to earn their respect. I know they're not.
They can't read, mate.
No, I know.
I mean, even the one in Winnie the Pooh thinks he can read, but he can't really read.
No, rationally, I know that, but there's something about just being in the presence of an owl where I'm like, no, I've got to earn his respect or her respect, because, yeah, I'm not good enough to be in
presence of the owl.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's how you'd feel about this next owl appearing.
Oh yes, we're there, aren't we?
We are there. There's a reason I've segued there.
We can't avoid. Yeah, so we have the tour of the taxidermy.
They're horrible. They're really bleak.
Which again, all of these eyes are just looking at him. Again, it's like this. As I said earlier, this sense that he's being watched from all angles by all sorts of different, very, very poorly put together.
That's what I wondered. Are they really badly put together, or does all taxidermy generally look like that?
I don't think all taxidermy.
Or do they all look like? Have you seen the meme of that awful fox?
Yes,
it's just absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, maybe it is either all taxidermy is like that, or you have to be incredibly skilled. It's definitely not as simple as Wise Owl makes out in the video. But
taxidermy itself, I mean, you've kind of alluded to the fact that it's there because he's stuck in the past, and it's kind of a way of preserving the past all the time. But I think it's a weird thing to do. And I think it's kind of symptomatic of like that unhealthy relationship with death that we have, where rather than just letting that animal go, you feel the need to hollow out its body and stuff it with foam so that it can supposedly live on.
when you see it sort of presented in such stark terms, you're like, this is an absurd thing that humans do.
I don't know what I thought they did, but cutting out a little foam body so you can stretch the skin back over it, didn't really realise that was what happened.
Yeah, I don't think I truly thought about I don't know whether it was like the ins and outs of texture.
Maybe that expanding foam, if you could just inject it with expanding foam. Yeah.
And this was because Tiggy put a message on Twitter saying that she was expecting, I think, like the human taxidermy angle inside number 9. And actually, like, because I didn't even consider that on first watch. But looking again, it's like, I don't know why I didn't consider that, because there's a lot of things pointing towards that. In the, like, it being, although the most horrific and the most bleak inside number 9 episode that you could possibly imagine making, it's still like, and with all the conversations about preserving the past and preserving, even preserving your pets, like there's a line I think that the dad says about like why people like people like to have their favorite pet around forever. And obviously Ronnie was his favorite pet. And that was like, on rewatch I was like, yeah, like I'm glad it didn't trigger in my head that could be the logical way that this is going.
You never want, with something like that, to imagine an even more horrific, from a horror point of view, only to feel like you've been let down in a way by it not manifesting, because that's I'm glad it didn't do that. Horrible. It's horrible as it is. You don't want to feel like that's the lesser of the two horribles.
Yeah. And I'm also glad it didn't happen the other way around. And I'm glad it wasn't a story of vengeance, because Ronnie, I think that's just such a beautiful thing with Ronnie, is he
won without
he stepped through those steps of growth at the end was him stepping into his own power, so to speak, for want of a better term. But it's and it doesn't require, because all you have, I mean, we're getting to the end here, sorry, but you've got the owl just with no power behind him, just trying to sort of twit you in his way, like, and
back into him.
And there's just nothing. And it's like the perfect end from that. Yeah, better than human taxidermy anyway.
Rolling back slightly, this owl does have seemingly a bit more power over him.
Yeah.
As the little owl, he wakes up in the night with a start, everything's looking at him, and then he sees this big owl head peeping around the corner.
I've been procrastinating to not talk about this scene.
Oh, we have to talk about this. Everyone wants to talk about this. Creepy big owl head, which I'm still wondering quite what role the actual owl is playing here, because he's gone from a little enchanted guardian to someone who's trying to convince him not to talk about things that he's done, to now big head owl peeking around the door frame.
Peeking, yeah. When you first catch sight of him at the door, it's like, is that
there is an owl now.
There's an owl head. Oh,
it's not an owl body though.
Right, cock and balls out. Yeah. This, I mean, obviously on rewatch, this is his dad. This is him reliving that trauma of Wise Owl coming into his room at night. I
hadn't joined the dots there still between Wise Owl being dad yet.
No, I hadn't. But it's like, and that's what's amazing about this episode, because it's like, it's so obvious.
I'm infinitely more penis in this series than any other series, I hasten to add.
Infinite amounts more. Yeah.
They've really gone for it, this series.
They have, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So then he wakes up. We'll go skip past that.
The head spin, horrible.
Yeah.
Even that's just what they do. But he decides to kind of get past that horror. He's going to stuff the rabbit.
He's drawn towards the sound of flies.
Something's rotten in there. And that's when we get, this is where Wise Owl is now explaining taxidermy to us.
Yes. Which was enlightening.
Yes, I did not know.
That's what you said.
Like I said.
Yeah.
They don't just cut a hole and stick some expanding foam in there. There's very little animal left. It's just its skin. I'd never really thought about it, really.
No.
It's not something that I see often enough to go, I wonder what's in that dead otter.
Twit you!
Wise Owl, what are you doing here?
Have you children never heard of taxidermy?
Taxi what?
Dermy. It's a way of keeping your favorite pets around forever. Let me show you. You will need a scalpel, some galvanized wire, a scraper, and tanning chemicals. Always read the label. First, you need to peel the skin off, make incisions around the legs and tummy, then pull the animal's pelt slowly from its carcass. Then you remove the eyes with a scalpel. I can do this for you. You can dispose of the body in an incinerator. Next, use the chemicals to tan the skin for 24 hours. This is a good time to play a game or have a sandwich.
Ew!
Next, make a body shape from foam using wire to keep it in place. Then pull the tanned hide back onto the model.
Like putting a sausage into its skin.
Exactly. Select glass eyes to match your pets and gently force them into the sockets. Scrunch and pull it into position and use a needle and thread to stitch everything back together and, hey presto, easy when you know how.
Thanks, Wise Owl. He's as good as new.
That's one of my favourite moments of this episode, actually, when the giggle, that is not the response that anyone would make to finding the eye of a dead cat in their sandwich.
Look, it's the risky run when you make a sandwich around the remains of a cat. You might end up with a bit of it in your sandwich.
It's true.
There's like bits of entrails around the table as well while they're eating. There's some amazing animation work in this.
Absolutely. It's incredible. Yeah, so it seems like taxidermy isn't as simple as Wise Owl makes it out to be.
No.
Because we then see in real life what he's done to that rabbit. What has he done to that rabbit?
It's like a bit of confusion I had between realizing that the wires were the green bits poking out of it were the wires, I think, for like the structure. I thought he might have just been like, they were little tubes pumping tanning liquid into it. I didn't really know what I was looking at.
I couldn't work out what I was looking at. Like, was there a syringe?
I don't think that rabbit knew what he was looking at either.
No.
Yeah, or maybe that's why I thought he was. He was injecting it with tanning liquid.
Yeah, I couldn't.
But that's not what it means to tan that.
No, no, he was doing it extra fast because that was the tanning bit takes 24 hours. That's why you can play a game or have a sandwich
of entrails.
Yeah,
24 minutes.
Yes.
But then Derek is just in time for Derek to come and demand his rabbit back.
Yeah. At which point you're thinking, what
is going on?
You can't, and then is the real Mr. Oliver in? And then it's like, okay, we've got a little twist going on here. He is an intruder. We don't know what sort of intruder he is, but the question of who is he? What's he doing here? And then you better, like, this was a red herring line of you better not have done anything to him. And then Ronnie's like, who? And then he says Ferrari. He doesn't care where the real Mr. Oliver is. Like, that's the funny thing about Mr. Blenkin, about Derek, is that he's not concerned about Mr. Oliver. He's just concerned about this rabbit.
Yeah.
And so then you're sort of thinking, okay, has Ronnie taken over that house? Where is the real Mr. Oliver? Yeah, and I think it's his reply of who, which is very defensive or very sort of like, oh, you're on to me. That makes you think, okay, is the real Mr. Oliver somewhere? And we haven't seen what's happened to him.
Is the real Mr. Oliver in? I was chatting to my neighbour and she said he's a gentleman in his 70s. So that's not you, is it? So who are you then? Eh? What are you even doing here? You better not have done anything to him.
Who?
Ferrari! Now can I have him back, please? Or am I going to have to call the police?
He sort of just packs the box.
Stuffs it into the box.
Hands it back.
You want reporting? You're sick.
You probably should report that, yes. Like,
there's some weird... Yeah.
If you know that the real Mr. Oliver is not in his house and that there's some intruder there...
who's butchering animals and then passing it off as taxidermy.
Yeah, you probably should call the police at that point. And then we see Ronnie sort of cover his ears and go into that sort of childlike...
overloaded state.
Yeah, stop the shouting, stop, like, I can't cope with this.
Yeah.
And then we cut to...
He lights a match, doesn't he?
Yeah, lighting the match.
And then we have another PSA with a house on fire. And the owl just flies out, sits on the tree, and flames light up his eyes. And he watches.
Yeah.
And there's a screaming girl inside. And owl just watches.
Yeah, and I mean, even then, on the first watch, you almost feel sorry for the owl, as if...
You think he's just tried to escape the fire and couldn't help the girl?
You've tried to teach these kids everything that you know about safety, and
they just won't listen.
Good enough. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, I wasn't sort of... Even with the don't tell anyone aspect, I was kind of like, the owl is obviously flawed, but maybe he's just a bit crap as a public safety person.
This represents a failing in his life's work rather than any malicious intent.
Yeah.
Was there still a part of you at this point thinking that this was just representing a part of Ronnie's psyche again?
I can't remember.
Sort of fleeing the house, or at this point you just like, okay, I'm going to go with this and see what happens.
Like, I'm not going to make any judgments now.
I'm not going to ask any questions anymore. I'm just going to let this unfurl.
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember thinking this is Ronnie escaping.
And we get more of a push on the official story during the funeral, where his dad puts his hand on him and says, "It should have been you, Ronnie," which is such a horrendous thing to say. Very
comforting thing to say at your sister's funeral. Yeah. Not like you're going to carry that around for the rest of your life.
And to say that, I mean, you can almost follow the twisted logic of him trying to pass off the blame of the fire being started away from him onto Ronnie. But outwardly saying, should have been you that died, rather than I'm so glad at least one of you got out. That sort of thing where we still got Ronnie. Yeah. No, I'd rather you died in there.
Yeah.
Your fault, you started it. So there's no need.
Which is actually the opposite of the truth. Yeah.
And also, mate, if you're trying to keep some dark things hidden, quit while you're ahead here and stop pushing your luck, because this sounds worse.
Yeah, quite.
Ugh.
Yeah, the transition, because the bag goes into the water and then the coffin goes into the ground, like if the almost like she boiled in the bag, like.
It should have been you, Ronnie.
And then we meet the man whose voice this is.
We do.
Who arrives in his house to find all of his electrics are off, all of his food in the freezer wrecked, some of his taxidermy eyes missing, and some of his wire. That's all gone now.
Yeah.
Somebody's been playing with my taxidermy kit. And he finds Ronnie perched on the edge of the bath like a little owl in the dark.
I hadn't thought that. Yeah, it's quite owl-esque.
A birdie. It was very odd.
And then he's like, "Oh, Ronnie. Hi, Dad. Okay, so we know where he is. We know what's going on.
Mr. Oliver's here. He's not stuffed."
But he just turns around and walks out. So it's a bit of an anticlimax to that whole confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
Back into the lounge he goes, pours himself a drink, pours Ronnie a drink.
And we're basically told that he's a bit of a drinker. It's only a nip. It's not. You've had like 4 nips in there. That's a glass of nips is what that is.
Glass full of nips.
Glass full of nips. And yeah, he's been at this 70s toy show.
Yeah.
Because that is where he's stuck. Like you said earlier, he is completely stuck in the past and his past work as the creator of Wise Owl.
Mm-hmm.
As it becomes apparent from the conversation. So that's now we're getting a bit of clearing up here on the relationship between Dad and Wise Owl. And this is where, for me, things started to click into place a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing that is where I then started to go, okay, the voice of Dad is the voice of Wise Owl.
Yeah.
I still wasn't at child abuse yet. But
even in the context of 70s children.
That's true. Entertainer.
Yeah.
Yes. So he asks whether Ronnie's been following his career for the last 20 years. Does that mean he hasn't seen Ronnie for 20 years? Because he's quite it's almost as though he was expecting this day to come when his son came back seeking some sort of vengeance. It's almost like he had that acceptance about him of, right, Ronnie's here.
Yeah, or is it just he doesn't speak to him about, like, maybe he's a bit drunk and he's been on his little trip to Pickering where, you know, he's been hanging out with Ray Brooks, Mr. Ben, Nigel from Pipkins. Don't know Pipkins. I'm not familiar with Pipkins. One of the Bungles. I know the Bungles. We all know the Bungles.
Yeah.
Not the scary one. There are 5. I was looking up. There are
5 Bungles.
5 people who've played Bungle over the years. And there's an urban legend that holds one of the actors, presumably, according to Wikipedia, Stanley Bates, playing the role of Bungle, was fired after swearing at a child who deliberately stood on his foot during a live show. Although longtime Rainbow contributor Malcolm Lord revealed that Bates chose to stand down before the live shows began in order to concentrate upon script writing, giving Lord the opportunity to portray Bungle himself.
Didn't scare a child on live television dressed as an animal that made him piss himself and ruin his career, like in Seance Time.
Oh, no.
It's amazing what you can get fired for in 70s children's TV, but other things you're fine. You carte blanche, do what you like.
Mm-hmm.
But don't swear at the child who stands on your foot.
Did you get my letters?
Yes, I had a few. I couldn't read half of them. Your handwriting's shocking.
Did you never want to come and see me?
Your mother said not to. Said it would only make it worse. It's all water under the bridge now, anyway. Come here.
Well, he also asked if he got his letters, which also suggests they haven't spoken. They haven't really talked. And he was just sort of waiting for the time when he finally was released from whatever institution he's been in and he would come looking for him. We also know that Dad never visited him while he was in.
Yes, that's true.
And so it might be that he hasn't seen him at all. And it was always Mum, because Mum said not to.
Make things worse.
Mum doesn't seem to have, from her conversation with him earlier, a particularly keen interest in the two of them reconciling.
Do you think she doesn't know what went on?
I don't think she knows. I can't imagine that she would have let her son. I mean, unless Mr. Oliver is particularly sort of, he has a particular power over her, I can't imagine she would let her son rot in some sort of institution for treatment without that becoming like a reason.
His career.
Yeah. Or maybe she would.
So then we learn about his move to taxidermy. I do this now. I guess that's I do this now professionally or to make a living.
Like an income stream of sorts.
Keep a memory alive.
Never done an owl.
Freeze frame of the happy moment. What's the
None
happy
of those
moment?
animals look happy.
No. And then there's like an allusion to, you know, he's
Tina Turner eyes.
Tina Turner eyes pop up. Biggest thing I've done is a goat called Pan, which is
Peter Pan.
Exactly.
Stuck as a child.
The boy who never grew up. Yeah, but he assumes that Pan it's like a goat. It's kind of a bit like a faun in old folklore legend.
Like Mr. Tumnus.
Yes, which is why he says she must have been a witch. But yeah, I think the Pan reference feels more like the boy who can't grow up. Yeah. So yeah, Ronnie tells him about, are you coming on? Asks him whether he's coming on Monday or whatever. And he doesn't know about Monday. He can't. Oh yeah, that.
Should have been 15.
50.
50, sorry. 15? 15.
50. 50, I think.
How old's Ronnie then? I guess with the time scale, it must... No,
I think we're in modern days. I think we're...
oh yeah, I guess the 70s are...
a very long time ago.
50 years ago. Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
She'd have been 50 years old.
Yeah. So has that just changed your entire...
No, he's a lot older than he seems then.
Yeah. So he's older. He's like mid-50s probably.
You know what day Monday is, don't you?
Monday. Oh, that.
Should have been 50.
Really? Time flies.
And then we cut to the... there's first the attempt by Dad to relieve Ronnie of any guilt. I don't blame you. It was an accident.
It's all water under the bridge now. And he tries to give him a hug. And obviously Ronnie wants none of that.
And then we cut to like the really quite jarring and amazing animation where Ronnie steps into the cartoon. And I think the way they do this, I'm not sure like the technicalities of it, but they do it perfectly as a, you know, the green screen equivalent of Rainbow and Play Days and all of those things, and the sound as well. That slightly tinny, electronic-y sound of his voice. So good.
With
and then
drunk Wise Owl in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's now back to his... he slipped into his... Is it Yorkshire? I think he's a Yorkshire owl.
It was my sister's birthday.
I'm 6.
She got a doll, a tea set, and a kite. Now we're waiting for Mummy to come home so we can light the candles on her cake.
I want to do it now. I know where they keep the matches. Look.
You shouldn't play with matches, Joanne. Isn't that right, Wise Owl? Wise Owl?
What?
Joanne wants to light her candles, but I told her it's dangerous.
Twit you. What does it say on the box? Can't you read?
Safety matches.
Exactly. They're safe. If she wants to light her candles, let her light them. It's her birthday.
Thanks, Wise Owl.
Are you sure we shouldn't wait for Mummy?
Are you sure we shouldn't wait for Mummy? Why do you have to ask permission for everything? Grow some balls, Ronnie, for fuck's sake.
He said balls.
But...
Wise Owl's always right, remember. Now, come on. Let's leave Joanne to make her wish. You're coming upstairs with me.
I'd rather stay here.
Wise Owl knows best.
Safety matches. Safety doesn't mean they're inherently safe. It means they're safer.
I like what he's done. He has highlighted an issue with the term safety matches, which is a paradox.
I mean, they're safer than the ones that used to just explode in your pocket if you had them in the same pocket as something slightly rough.
Yeah, or light on your fly, which was an old party trick of mine that I used to call Firefly.
What came first, the name or the act?
It was a curiosity about the fact that it was my first box of non-safety matches that I'd ever come across. And I was like, I wonder what you can light these on.
So you decided your crotch was a good starting
I was like, I imagine a zip has a good bit of friction to it.
Don't be a twit, you.
Yeah, no, that worked well.
Well done.
No one was ever really that impressed by it, but I kind of liked the fact that it had a pun involved.
When did that die out?
What, Firefly?
Yeah.
I only did it several times.
When you say a party trick?
Died out with a pair of trousers.
Did you say a party trick? Was it while you were a 7-year-old at children's parties?
Yeah, when I was,
look, guys,
moonlighting as a clown. The moment of innocence in this, where Ronnie looks to his dad or looks to Wise Owl to kind of justify his sensible position, where he's like, you shouldn't play with matches, isn't that right, Wise Owl? And he's like, twit you, what's it say on the box? Can't you read? Safety matches. They're safe. Are you sure you shouldn't wait for Mummy? Why do you have to ask permission for everything? Grow some balls, Ronnie, for fuck's sake.
He said balls. The takeaway from that.
And then we go into full on, okay, we know what this is now, and let's leave her to make her wish.
I know what this. That was very Christine of you. Oh, I know what this is now.
Yeah, and it was a moment like that. It was I see. Everything makes sense here now. Yeah,
and I thought that this was this next bit as Ronnie's being taken upstairs. And it turns out that actually Ronnie isn't being taken upstairs. Ronnie is doing the taking upstairs. But the way it kind of pulls out of the animation completely to, right, we are now completely grounded in reality. This is what actually happened. There's Joanne in live action playing with the matches as Ronnie kind of has to helplessly watch as Dad. I mean, why Dad's incestuous carnal desires were enough to override stopping his daughter from burning herself alive in that moment, I have no idea. Seriously.
The bottle of whiskey is probably...
Come on, up we go. Leave your sister to it.
Yeah.
Sorry, what? What? I don't know how you make that behaviour more deplorable, but he's given it a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the protestations from Ronnie as well, like, I don't want to go upstairs. And
that horrible, venomous, Wise Owl knows best. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it sort of has that great transition where we realise, okay, Ronnie is leading
Dad upstairs with his bread knife.
Yeah. And then we hear what really happened that night. And that Ronnie took the blame for the fire.
I do love this line of he was the face of public information films. His daughter being burned alive wasn't particularly on brand.
It's like, yeah, that's a...
You're right. You are definitely right.
an understatement.
It does taint things somewhat.
Yeah. And then Ronnie, talks about, I trusted you. I always did everything Wise Owl said. And then that was just a game, Ronnie. It wasn't doing any harm. You enjoyed it.
Oh, don't be a twit, you.
Oh.
Give your old man a hug.
So, and then you're thinking Ronnie has succumbed to that. Like he's bought this little thing.
But then no. Bread knife stab.
In the pillow. Feathers everywhere.
The pillow. I love the feathers everywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
And as he beats him with the pillow.
And even then, yeah. Well, I mean, he's saying, do you want to be put back in that place? Stop this now and I won't say anything. Like, even then, there's that just horrible controlling thing. And then he says, no.
I'm going to tell Mum.
Yeah, I'm going to tell everything.
And then he's sort of that panic sets in with that kind of, right, how can I get this back? I'm losing control of the situation. What can I fall back on? Wise Owl won't let you. And we must always do what Wise Owl says, mustn't we?
It's that change of sound. Like, it's that, and it's the same, whatever sound they used when Ronnie went into the cartoon. It's that same.
Yeah. With like voice
effect. Yeah. Very sinister 70s. It's the same as the voice of Dark and Lonely Water kind of thing. And you and you hear it. It's the same kind of sound you hear in a lot of British horror films from around that time. Like it's like I don't know what like, it is.
It must be some sort of. I guess at that time you're talking analog recording, and it's going, but it's still running through some sort of processing, and it's giving it that weird effect to it. Maybe it's the microphones, but it has a very distinctive kind of sound to it.
Yeah.
And he's sort of, it's weird that he feels like there's the panic that sets in and him kind of just flailing around saying stuff to try and bring it back on side, but then switching back into that very calculated, hang on a minute, no, I know what will flick the switch here. Like I'll put out the Wise Owl voice again. Yeah. That'll get him back in line.
And that's in keeping with, what I was saying earlier about like having things within the environment that that sort of almost hypnotically just get him to do exactly as he wants him to do. Like just trigger that, like, trigger words or trigger sounds or whatever.
Almost like a hypnotist.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why like having the eyes in the wallpaper, having the feeling like you're always being watched.
Yeah.
Like everything is just set up so that he can use that to make him bend to his will, essentially.
Where are you going? To see Mum. I'm going to tell her. Tell her what exactly? Everything. No. Stop the night here. Let's just talk some more. You can't go. Ronnie, you mustn't say anything. Wise Owl won't let you.
And we must always do what Wise Owl says, mustn't we?
One line that I was, I guess it's just the writing, where I was like, what does that mean? When he's like, no, stop the night here. And I heard that as like, literally, don't, it wasn't, in my head, I wasn't like, stay the night.
Owls come out at night time. We need to stop this story here.
Stop the night. Yeah, stop the story right here.
He's just northern, Andy. He's just the northern person who uses phrases like stop the night.
Yeah, which I understand now, but...
I spent 4 hours analysing that lie.
Stop the night here. And he couldn't. I was like, is this going to turn into like a Bernard's watch sort of situation where he's able to stop time? Right, let's stop the night.
Oh, don't start with the time travel again. We did that last time.
Well, Bernard's watch wasn't so much time travel as just stopping time. Do you remember Bernard's watch?
I do remember Bernard's watch.
I used to love that idea.
Yeah, I think it could... There must have been a really dark point later on, though, that Bernard must have his age must have slipped slightly every single time until he'd spent all this time irresponsibly doing that suddenly he seemed to be aging a lot faster than everyone else.
Oh yeah, he'd be aging really rapidly. Yeah.
If he was using it really irresponsibly and just every couple of days shut it down for like 3 weeks. I'll do what I like for a few weeks, get some peace and quiet. He's aged 3 weeks in that time when everyone else hasn't aged at all.
That explains something that I was talking to my sister about a couple of weeks ago, which is how...
No, what I've just said there should not spark that next sentence. What were you talking about?
People in her school year now look about 20 years older than me.
Good. I'm glad that you've realised the most obvious reason for that is Occam's razor over here.
Yeah.
Bernard's watch. It's not Bernard's watch, mate.
Yeah, and then it ends with a great line.
Yeah, and I think you've skipped over the kind of... You've been building up to this beautiful ending. Throughout the episode, you've been alluding to it, and now you just kind of glossing over it and go, yeah, the great last line.
Yeah, no, it's a great ending. So he says, no, not anymore. I'm not doing what a wise owl says anymore.
But I think what's really nice is that we go back to the animated, and it's almost like he's taking back control of those animated memories and building like a little sort of new set of animated memories that are more reflective of reality now.
Yeah.
And
a powerless owl and a grown Ronnie.
Powerless. So to speak. But yeah, that as he takes those steps and grows, and now you've just got panicking, twit you.
Yeah.
Get stuffed.
Great last line.
Because, taxidermy.
The taxidermy, that's why it all mattered.
Chekhov's stuffed otter. We got called out for Chekhov's smear test last night.
Yeah, sorry.
Apparently not okay. So yeah, that an incredibly uplifting end to the episode that actually turned it into quite a hopeful story and quite a the ability to work past that and take control back.
Dark. Yeah, he's turned his back on the thing that has controlled him all these years. And I love that it could have been he's gone there for vengeance. He's gone there for that reckoning moment that you alluded to earlier when you're saying, he's been expecting this day where he comes back. And it's like, actually, he's done that and dealt with it like more adult than most adults would deal with that situation. And that's his moment.
And even if he had gone there with the intention of something different, he didn't need to in the end. He didn't need to saw him into bits.
And I don't think he did go with that intention. I'm still slightly confused about the bath thing, but
he seemed to have sort of a plan in that he knew he was going to take him to the bedroom because he wanted to kind of have it out there. Like there seemed, unless he was just sort of driven to that from his flashbacks. He was like, no, I need to take Dad up there and I need Dad to go through this there.
Yeah.
I don't think that it was as simple as he had a plan to do that. I think he was mixed up and he didn't really know what he was doing there. He'd gone there knowing that he wanted to do something. And at the beginning of the day, it was kill himself in the bath with a electrical radio. But by the end of the day, it was and I think his dad kind of...
So maybe it's, in that respect, it's going against Wise Owl. It's like countering the messaging that he's internalized that Wise Owl has instilled in him. So it's, whether that's electrocuting himself in the bath, it's just like, no, I won't not anymore. You must always do what Wise Owl says. Maybe that's the significant line. No, not anymore. Okay, either I'll kill myself in the bath with an electric radio, or I'll do whatever.
But also, I think he ended up being pushed the way he did by the way that his dad reacted to him and was kind of quite flippant about everything and just kind of brush it under the carpet as the whole thing was no big deal at all. And I think that really that was important for him.
Yeah.
For Ronnie to get to the stage where he was like, no, okay, we're gonna have this out, and actually, no, you're not Wise Owl. I know you're not Wise Owl. I know that you don't have control over this situation, and I do, and I don't need to talk to you anymore. I don't need to listen to you anymore. You can get stuffed.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, just a great episode.
I think so.
And I've enjoyed talking about it.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, if anybody has any thoughts to add to this or on any of the episodes in this series, then please do get in touch with us via email, aquietnightinsideKnow9@gmail.com, or on Twitter @AQNIN9. I reckon should we have a week off and then, so we've got time to sort of gather people's thoughts and things and then do a wrap-up episode. I think that will work.
Good.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, so sad that we're at the end of Series 7. But
we do know we've got 8 and 9 to come.
We do. And that is good. Yeah, thank you to everybody for joining us for this series. It's been lovely and much nicer than Series 6 from my perspective, just to have a bit more time to reflect on episodes after seeing them for the first time than 3 minutes.
Yes, that was a good plan.
Yeah.
See you in a couple of weeks.
See you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Not anymore. Ronnie, stop! Twit you!